Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. With me this week is Stephen and Max. I'm not going to ask how you are, not because I don't care, because yours can be crap answers. What I will ask is how happy are you both that football is back?
Not at all.
Very. my life has meaning again.
I know, it's been one of those things where I've been so starved of it. Last night I watched the Champions League qualifiers, watching Bodo Glimt play, was it Red Star Belgrade? It was actually quite a good game, 2 banging goals. But we're going to move on to the weekend. The Premier League was back. More importantly, Newcastle were back at home to Southampton. A lot happened. There was a major incident, which we're going to glaze over and talk about in more detail. But we've got the win. Max, I'll come to you first. From the results, what did you like? What were the positives you're taking from the 1-0 victory?
Well, considering it was a very special game in terms of the how it developed, I think the fighting performance is what I take from it. Seeing us grit through to get the result done and get the 3 points was something we didn't see so much at the back end of last season or mid-season last season, where we did lose quite a few games last minute. And to see us just see it through was probably the biggest positive for me. Also seeing the backline midfield fighting very hard for the points. So out of that game, I take that.
Yeah. And Stephen, what were your positives? What did you like?
I mean, I admire a lot of what Max said about the sort of fighting spirit. That's probably the best sort of gritty performance we've seen from the lads in probably about a full season since the start of last season. The biggest positive for me was seeing just how sharp and how ready to go Joe Linton looked.
Yes.
I thought he was colossal in the middle of the park. Yesterday, last game. And he was vital to us getting that win. His defensive work just in front of the box was critical. And seeing Nick Pope in the team as well was excellent. Obviously, we've seen him at times in preseason. Seeing him at full speed in a game, being able to come off his line and actually claim aerial balls and whatnot was really positive. And then generally just seeing just how sharp a lot of the players started to look until the game was disrupted. There was some sloppiness in the passing, sure, but having everyone back fit, mostly everyone back fit was a refreshing sight.
Yeah, it was. And the match that it reminds me of from last season was the PSG game where we got the early goal and we just got battered for the remainder, and we would have got a well-deserved win if it wasn't for referee last minute. Look, this didn't happen in this game. But as you say, the midfield, everyone giving it the role all match. And yeah, I was going to come to this later on, but I think you've already mentioned Joe Linton. My man of the match was given man of the match. It was colossal performance is exactly what it was. It was so good to see him. There's loads of clips of him doing numerous different things. I think there's one where there was a break and he just runs past everyone and just possesses Diaz. He was looking amazing. And he didn't get his classical jelly legs in the box. His goal was very well taken on his wrong foot. We've seen him kick the ground before. We've seen him sky it, put it wide, slice it. And I hope it's a good stage for him to kick on from. But was there anything that concerned you from the performance, Max?
Yeah, well, I think we started quite slowly. I didn't think our press was at its best at the start. Now, the beginning of the game is a bit of a blur because of what happened with the red card. But I do remember that Southampton did score, even though it was a clear offside. But I didn't feel like we had much control in the first 20 minutes anyway. I didn't think we did anything good with the ball. And it wasn't what I was expecting us to. I was thinking we're gonna go guns blazing out because we did that against Girona in the preseason. So I was thinking of something similar to that, but that wasn't what happened. So a bit disappointed by that. But then again, the 3 points is all that matters. And considering how the game developed, it's still a good result. And I think we just have to go to the next one and hope we see some better performance on the football playing side of it, not just defending.
Yeah, I mean, and so what do you think was causing Newcastle to not get going, as I think everyone did expect, as Max says there, to go Eddie Howe, pressing, controlling the game? Why do you think we couldn't get our foot in it?
I think But I think it's worth sort of giving some credit to Southampton. I think we often see newcomers into the Premier League or teams coming up into the Premier League after a little time away, even if it's just a season. They can often surprise teams on day one. Often it's easy to sort of take a lot of these teams for granted and assume you're going to beat them. Certainly, a lot of Southampton fans assumed they were going to lose. I think in terms of the underlying causes, I think a lot of it was just the uptick in pace. Like, it's very easy to say, oh well, we came out all guns blazing against Girona in the preseason. Both teams were in the preseason. Like, it's easy. It was a good tempo for a friendly, but when you get into the Premier League, you then remember just how high tempo, high fast paced the Premier League can be, and I think that caused a lot of problems. I think everything was just a bit out of kilter. I think we had the sort of the lineup we wanted, but I think you can just tell that these guys haven't played together a bunch over the past few months just because of how many injuries there were. You can tell that Joelinton wasn't used to playing with Lewis Hall, and you could tell that Joelinton had just been out of sorts. So a lot of the passes that were going to him, he was either in a sort of questionable position or the passes weren't great. I mean, as a team, I know that it's skewed because of the red card, but I mean, as a team, we had a 64% pass accuracy against Southampton, which, and that's not, like I say, it was skewed a bit because of the red, but even before the red, it was not the best passing performance we've ever had. I think 20% of our passes were all long balls. So we'd get a quick passing sequence and then someone would hoof it, and that was clear even in the early stages of the game. I think we sort of just forgot the fundamentals a bit, and so we let ourselves down in the press and in our distribution. Again, I think Southampton's press was quite good. I think they were quite determined, and they did put on a good show for a promoted side.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that the expectation from the fans was, if you said that Southampton were the established Premier League team, when we were the newcomers, you wouldn't have been surprised because they did really control it. They've got that new wonderful style of football that everyone's playing, passing it out from the back, which ironically was their downfall, and why only the best in the elite teams can really pull it off and make it work. That tiny mistake, or massive mistake as it were, was their only downfall, because I don't think we were getting our foot in the game. The only concern I would have is obviously we didn't get going. I thought, as much as Lewis Hall had a great end to last season, I thought defensively in this game, I was so surprised they took off that winger, because he was turning him inside out, and they'd subbed him off, and then it just went to Walker Peters. And they were like, all right. And then Walker Peters did absolutely nothing. So I was very surprised that they took the winger off. That he was one of the biggest concerns for me. And the fact that we couldn't get our foot in the game, even though we went down to 10 men. If you took Man City, and I know that they're a level above us, but we're aspiring to be them, and I touted Southampton to be relegation fodder, and I still think you are. And they would control that. Liverpool would still control that game, and the top teams would still control that with 10 men. So we did look rusty, but the positives massively outweigh the negatives. And, I think the reason why Southampton won't stay in the league is their lack of ability to finish. They pulled off some good saves, but ultimately I don't think they've got the firepower, unless you guys think differently. I do think they're in for a very difficult, long season.
I mean, for a team that was playing against 10 men for the large majority of the game, to only generate 1.7 expected goals was not great. You could just tell, like, Brereton Diaz and Cameron Archer when he came on, like, neither of them, they weren't finding themselves in good positions, and a large part of that is to do with how compact we became in and around the box. But even then, you'd hope that a team that can dominate the ball that well is going to be able to find that extra man in space. And the fact they only created 3 big chances in that game, and like I say, that 1.7 expected goals off 19 shots that's indicative of what you say, like that inability to sort of put teams away. If that had been us if we'd been playing against City, if we'd been down at 10 men against City, we'd have lost 4 or 5-0.
Yeah,
probably.
Great.
Again, it's where we go back to the increase in tempo in the Premier League. You can't make mistakes in this division, because teams are ruthless when it comes to transitions and counter-attacks. Teams are so fast in the Premier League, you just can't give them those chances like Southampton gave to us.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on because we've mentioned it a few times. There was an incident, quite a significant incident of within half an hour, I think it was, half an hour mark. The ball, I'll paint the picture for those that haven't seen it. The ball goes over the top and the referee blows his whistle. It's an offside, I believe. The referee's blowing his whistle for one reason or another. Fabian Schär's wandering over to the ball to pick it up. And out of nowhere, Brereton Diaz has assaulted him from behind, has shoved him over. If you were a man in the street, you'd have got up and knocked him out. Schär tries to do that. He gets up, walks towards him, gives him a push, and they have a coming together. And then there's a red card. Very quick, didn't see what happened. Now, on review, in slow motion, there was minimal contact, if any, from Schär. What I want to put to you, lads, and Max, you can be the first one to dive in. If you were the referee, what would you have done in that situation? What would you have liked to have done from your perspective?
So yeah, if I hadn't had a clear view of it, I would like to go to the VR and look at it, because it's a big decision to send someone off. And if you're not sure, then it's probably for the best to go and check it out. And obviously he didn't, and I think he had a pretty good view of it, although he might not seen how light the head-to-head with Diaz, between Diaz and Schär was, because it's really nothing. I mean, we've all seen in slow-mo and all the different angles. It's nothing. You don't fall down for something like that kind of contact. So I think that there's a wrong thing here with VAR, because they should tell him to go and check it out. Although, if you look at it from the rule book's perspective, it's not a clear and obvious error, although I think it is, because the shove in the back on Schär is much more dangerous than the headbutt. And I took it up in my match reaction that we have Freddie Youngberg in the studio in Sweden, and he was very, very mad. I haven't seen him so agitated before at that decision. He told no one who has ever played football gives Schär a red card in that situation, because of the theatrics of Diaz and how he went in the back of him. And I think that's the point where VR should help him out, but instead they go by the book and they say, no, we didn't do a big wrong. I mean, Schär took the bait, and that he shouldn't do that. But I think you have to have some perspective on the situation. And as soon as Craig Pawson did it, he lost the game from that point, and well, it shouldn't have been a red. For me, it's a yellow card for both players. That's the logical decision. But yeah,
I've seen a few people call in for a red card on Diaz. Do you think Diaz was lucky, Stephen, that it wasn't reviewed for him for what he did to Schär?
Yes, I think that. Well, I think you've seen a number of pundits, like Max mentions Freddie Ljungberg. I think Graham Souness on TalkSport said that Brereton Diaz should have been sent off for the simulation, because it was outrageous simulation. It was. There's for those who watch this that may not have heard of it. There is an internet award for those who dive a lot or do it in a very theatrical style, called, instead of the Ballon d'Or, it's the Fall on Floor.
Oh yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that you would see on that. Schär didn't lean back or shunt his head into him or anything. Schär came into the encounter with his head pushed forward, and then you see in the real slow-mo, you see Brereton Diaz is the one who initiates anything that could be described as a headbutt. You could argue that on review that should have been overturned and a red given to Brereton Diaz for violent conduct. But I would probably agree with Max. I think Schär was a bit stupid to get himself into that situation in the first place. I think Brereton Diaz should have been booked for the simulation. He should realistically, he should have been booked for the shove off the ball on Schär, and then booked again for the simulation. Because the simulation was really bad. It was really, really bad. And I think it's more a comment on Craig Pawson, that he got suckered in by the simulation, and then when it was reviewed, that he wasn't Did he go to the monitor? I don't think he went to the monitor.
There was no monitor, and this is where I get really angry, and this is where everyone's frustrations boil over, because I despise VAR because it's never used and it's there, and everyone always says, "Oh, it's not the technology." Well, it failed again because every single person from even Sunderland fans might even admit that was not a red card. It was embarrassing, and I know you touched on it, Max, about the rules and engagement, and so he might have to be sent off. But there's no common sense anymore. If you're headbutted in the face and you don't even go off for physio or anything like that to be checked out, what are you doing? If as a referee you see a man go down, a fully grown adult man fall to the ground holding his face, and then minutes get up and trot off, why are you he's not hurt, you've been deceived, and VAR should also be saying that's not a headbutt, he is making the most of it, book them both and send and let's get on with the match. The reason why they will keep doing this, and Diaz will do it again, and these other players will do it again, is because the referees allow them to, and it's just not being managed, and it infuriates me.
On that point, I mean, you're basically rewarding diving.
Exactly.
It's not. You're rewarding cheating.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
It's simulation. You're cheating. It's like, as Graham Souness went into a bit of a rant on TalkSport, it's cheating. Yep. This is not like there's a lot of things you can rant about in football, but one of the things that no one likes divers. No one likes divers. It is the routine stereotype that is thrown at the game that we enjoy so much, is that footballers throw themselves on the ground and play act as if they've been shot in the head. Yeah. And that's exactly what Brereton Diaz did. The only thing that should have happened was the red should have been overturned on review, because how you can look at it. I get if you look at it and there's nothing happens at all, you can see how the I think it was Chris Kavanagh was the VAR in that game. If he looks at that and says, okay, there's no contact at all, it's easier for him to say it's clear and obvious error. But even on slow mo, you see there's no motion of Schär towards Diaz, and there is clear motion from Diaz towards Schär. And like you say, Mark, like, everyone looking at this incident said, unless you're Dale Johnson at ESPN, who deals with the PGMOL a lot, who's an absolute moron, who defended the decision. Everyone else, no one apart from Southampton fans thought it was a correct decision.
Yep.
Like, no one did. And at that point, like, you just know that the PGMOL are not going to come out and apologize for it, because they'd have to admit wrongdoing, not necessarily wrongdoing, but that them being fooled by simulation. That's not a good look for them. So they're not going to admit that it was an error. So it's like, in that turn, it's unlikely that Schär's red would be overturned on appeal. And it's just it's stupid. It's so stupid.
I was going to ask if we were going to appeal, but I mean, this is part of the problem of they'll never release the audio, because you'll hear the absolute buffoonery that will have gone on in there, going, "Oh, no, he's walked towards him. There is contact, violent conduct. Yep, you've made the right." And we'll just like, well, what we're seeing, what every other person with eyes and a brain are looking at, can see that it is just. It's like if you're a parent and you see your kids do something like that, you can see them do. Kids do it all the time. They'll run up to another kid, hit the other kid, and then pretend that they were hit, and you're like, pack it in. We know, I know you're being daft. So it's very frustrating. But justice was done. And do you think that Newcastle were right not to appeal, Max, lastly, on this incident, so I can move on and regain some pull in my face?
Is it confirmed that they haven't?
We haven't appealed yet. So I don't think we will.
There's nothing's come out that we have appealed. I think it's unclear. I don't think it's undecided at this point. I think it's what we safe to say.
Well, do you think we should, Max? Then I'll change that. Do you think we should appeal?
I mean, I think we should, because I think it should be overturned. But I mean, it's like you said, the refs won't probably admit to doing a wrong thing with this, and they will point to the rule book and say, yeah, but it initiated a sort of, I don't know, violent conduct, if you can call it. I can't even call it that, but it's what they will say, and I guess they're just not. I deny the appeal, but I think we should, because I think in everyone's mind that shouldn't be a red, and he should play next weekend.
Well, that's the thing. The knock-on effect is we're going to probably play Kraft in the centre back, which I don't mind. I mean, obviously,
I don't mind it either. It's really good. He had a really good game when he came on.
He never has a bad game at centre back. To be fair to him, I can't remember a bad game at centre back. But you don't want him there. And it
No,
does limit us. And mainly going forward, I think, is the biggest
yeah,
impact that
he
has.
does a job defensively, but going forward,
There is like, I mean, we don't exactly have the hardest game next, at least, and we do have a little bit more cover in that. Obviously, we have we have two fullbacks who are a bit faster. Jolinton's back, Pope's back, so he can actually come off his line. So there's a bit more cover to compensate for Schär being out, but it still sucks that he is at least at this point going to be out for 3 games.
Yeah, that's it. 3 games also that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's mental.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on. So red cards are a sad affair, and what else is a sad affair is our transfer window so far. I don't know if you've seen, lads, but we've been interested in a particular centre back for quite a while. His name's, I think it's Mark Gahey. But yeah, we've put it. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's I believe he plays for Crystal Palace, they say. But we've put in about 17 offers. And last we heard it was kind of the offer was there, but news has come out recently that we may be even increasing it to around 70 million pounds sterling. So I'll come to you, Stephen. Is he worth that money, first of all?
No. He could be. I think
we'll move on.
It is important to clarify. Obviously, Mark Gahey is. I mean, he's what, 24? He's just turned 24. Yeah. So for a centre back, he's got maybe about another 10 years of high level football. For a guy who is likely to be an England stalwart for the foreseeable future, he's a really, really good player. He's English, which adds an extra tax to it. And it's a team that doesn't need to sell. He's not in the last year of his deal. The price is going to go up. It is more than he is currently worth. Yes. I think we are in part paying for a guy that the club are clearly very keen on. The club clearly see something. And it's clear to see that he's got tons of talent, excellent player, sure. But the clubs clearly see something that we don't all quite see clearly. And I think that's what's making them push it up in terms of a fee. Whether or not that's more on the side of them going so hard on a target Eddie Howe really wants in order to keep him happy, or if they're just that keen on Gahey. Either way, I think he's been an excellent player for us. I think he'd be brilliant. It does limit how much we would be able to spend realistically on a winger, which I think is the more important position. But no, he's. I mean, 70. What's 70 million in euros? I think is that not getting up to the Van Dijk level?
Oh God.
It'd be about 82 million euros. Van Dijk was about 85 million euros. Yeah, so we're in the realms of Van Dijk money.
Maguire
we're in the realms of world record for defender money. And he's not that right now. He's excellent player, not worth that much money.
Yeah. And Max, how do you feel about the approach? I know we're kind of like ninjas, or have been, in the transfer window recently, where see a rumor, it's flooded out there, thrown away, you kind of don't see it, and then bang, Isak towards the end of the transfer window. We've gone for a different approach of just airing our dirty laundry. I mean, what are your thoughts on how we've conducted ourselves in this window so far?
I'm unsure if it's from our side. It might be from agent side, or mostly from the Palace side, because Steve Parish has been out in media a lot talking about Gahey, and I guess that's probably where most of the noise is coming from, because they might want to bring in other parties, build up the interest, build a fee more, because they want as much money as they can get for him, and I completely respect that. It's a bit tiring, because it's some days it's just not news. When you get like new tweets, it's just, yeah, we're still hopeful. Okay, yeah, well, I don't need to hear that. I just want to hear it's done. I don't want to hear how many bids were lodged, or I just want to hear it's done. Although I get the journalists have their job, but it's tiring in that sense, because you kind of feel like you're going around waiting for something. And I think that's also what contributes to the frustration we can see on social media, with people, just sick of it. basically, and everyone has different ideas of what we should get and which players we should get and what positions we should strengthen, and that's, I mean, it's building up the frustration, and I just want to see it done. I just want to see us get at least one more player in or two, hopefully, but it's getting tiring right now. It really is, and I hope we get done soon.
Yeah, I would just like to see, you know, even if it's coming from the Palace side, Newcastle can like say to them, "Don't want any more of this going out into the ether. Stop it. Otherwise, we'll walk away." Because, in my opinion, very good player. Like I echo what Stephen says, he is a top centre back. In my opinion, the worst time to buy him coming off a tournament that nobody expected him to shine in, and he did exceptionally well as one of the only players for England that. I'd say his value increased during the tournament, which is bad for us. This is why we're looking at him so much, but bad time to buy him. But we're moving on from possible Gahey, though, you know, rumours are going around, but we're looking at other players, Stephen. I think Tatsoba of Leverkusen and Disasi, the disaster from Chelsea. From the two that we've been linked with, who would you be leaning towards? Are they both good players? Do you think they'd fit?
The only one out of the two, out of all the centre backs we linked to, outside of Gahey, obviously, there's been tenuous links with Maxence Lacroix, with obviously like Disasi and Tapsoba, also with the likes of Odilon Kusunu as well, also at Leverkusen, like Tapsoba. They would all be. I've seen a few jokes and memes about Disasi. I like him. I think he's a good player. I think it's hard for anyone to shine at that circus that is Chelsea. I think all of them would be good players for Eddie Howe. I think by a distance, Edmund Tapsoba would be the preference. If we harken back to the sort of the signings episode we did on centre backs, one of the things that we profiled with Fabian Schär was his on the ball ability, and that's what we would need to replace. Edmund Tapsoba is a monstrously good in possession centre back. His ball carrying is unbelievable, outstanding. His passing ability is unreal for a centre back. He is phenomenal on the ball. To be expected in such a ball dominant attacking side as Leverkusen, we are also a very attacking side that likes our centre backs to carry the ball and pass the ball a lot. He would be an unbelievable signing for us. He is actually worth world record fee for a defender amounts of money. His release clause, I think, is anywhere. I think I've seen lots of reports that differ anywhere from 80 to 100 million euros for his release clause. If it was 80, I'd pay it.
Yeah,
I would pay 70 million quid for Edmund Tapsoba in a heartbeat. I think he'd be phenomenal.
Better than Gahey?
Absolutely. He is a country mile better than Gahey. He would be instantly one of the best right centre backs in the league if he joined us. I think he's absolutely perfect for what we want. And I think he'd be a big upgrade on Fabian Schär, albeit he's not as handsome.
Oh,
which is a downside.
You're hard pressed to find a more handsome man.
Yeah. You can't get it all.
But the only other reason why I wouldn't want Disasi, I think the only reason why we linked with him so heavily is because Mitchell had a link with him. Was it Monaco he was at when Mitchell was there? You seem to rate him a lot more than I do. I agreed, it's harder to shine in a bad team, but I think it's easier to shine in a bad team. In a bad team, you can individually look good in a bad system, and Cole Palmer is the the player that did that. He was picking up the ball. Maybe it's difficult for a defender because obviously a defender is not just one man doing things on his own. It's typically a defensive unit. Your midfield have to have cohesion with you. So I get where you're coming from with that. But I don't want Chalobah. I don't want Disasi. Tatsoba, I'd be lying if I told you I know a lot about him. I know who he is. I know what he's done, but I've not seen a lot of him on the ball. But it would be good to see some business done, especially when Yakumba Minter is having such a
no.
I was hoping when he went to Brighton, he won't start, and they started starting preseason. Hey, go with preseason. Murphy scored like 78 goals in preseason for us. Don't matter, it'd be Murphy on. Nah, Yakumba Minter's looking really good.
It's a shame he went off injured though.
Was it a bad injury?
No, I don't know the details. All I know is that he was an injury sub.
I think he was. It was a concussion. I think it was. So yeah, he'll be back and he'll be good. But very quickly, one last thing. We're away to Bournemouth, aren't we? On Sunday, 2:00. Sunday. What are your score predictions quickly?
Oh,
go Max, go.
2-1 Newcastle or 1-2. How do you want to say it?
3-0 Newcastle.
Ooh, that was with
confidence.
They barely drew with Forest. Like, it took them until the 86th minute to equalize against Forest of all teams. I think as long as we don't have another red card incident, I think we're grand.
They didn't lose against us last season, right? We drew and lost, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but that's last season.
When
we had all our injury problems. Don't bring that bad juju here, Max.
Okay,
don't bring that bad juju.
Emil Kraft is going to be in the team, Max. Come on, get
behind.
behind.
Score.
Two Swedes in the team. I would say I was overly confident against Southampton. I was like 4-0, get slapped. You go, and they did a lot better than I expected before even the red card. They were probably the better team. I'll be happy with a 2-0 controlling victory is what I'm going to go for. I don't think they'll score because, again, Emil Kraft is legitimately, ironically, a very tidy centre-back, and Nick Pope was looking sharp as attack. As much as I do love Martin Dubravka, Pope was a big, all jokes aside, he did make a big difference. So, clean sweep for victories. This is the blessing that we've got with a very, very easy, by all accounts, of start, a very desirable start. So, yeah. Boys, thank you very much for joining me. We'll speak next week, no doubt, about more incidences during the Bournemouth game, but hopefully nothing to do with VAR and just talking about how amazing Joelinton is. But yeah, thank you everyone. For those who made it this far, do hit like, do hit share, and do subscribe. Comment below your score predictions for the Bournemouth game. And as always, guys, thank you very much. Take care.